He intended for us to know his word personally and for ourselves. That was always his intent, for his people to know his word, because to know his word is to know him, because he is his word. So it was illegal for the common man to have the scriptures in their possession. The consequence for that was death. Okay, so then they decided after a while, because, you know, people, even though that was the law, people were still getting a hold of it. And so then they decided, you know, here comes King James. King James wanted to be noble, wanted to be praised, wanted to be worshipped. So what did he do? Well, I'm going to give you a video. Because what I'm going to say, when you watch this video, you will understand it better. Okay, I'm going to share a video real quick. So save it if you would, please, and watch it later. Britain comes out of Rome. Britain comes out of Rome. Okay, and I'm not going into any great detail in that, because I don't want to get off subject. But, so what happened, this is what Christianity taught. Rome taught that Christianity came to replace the Yahudim. Rome taught, and still is the teaching today, you're welcome, Dakut. Rome taught that Christianity was sanctioned by quote-unquote God to replace the Yahudim. Now, the deception uses the word Jews. Okay? So, if you're going along with the deception, you would say they teach that Christianity was raised up to replace the Jews. Replacement theology. Okay? Well, Jew does not speak of the people of the land. Jews are not Hebrews, and Hebrews are not Jews. Or Jews are not Abri, and Abri are not Jews. Okay? And that's a mistake that a lot of people still make when they sit on the corner somewhere and argue with a Jew saying, you're not a Jew, I'm a Jew. No, that's very foolish. You see? Because the people of the land are not Jews. And Jews are not the people of the land. Okay? Now, what? So what? This is what once Britain separated themselves from Rome. Once Britain separated themselves from Rome, what Britain began to say was that we and the Isles of Europe are the people of the scriptures. You'll see that in that video. And that's coming out of their presses. Nobody made that up. That's their video. Okay? You'll see it. So they began to teach that we are the people of the scriptures, and that that we are the people of the scriptures, and that the isles of Europe are the scattered tribes. Okay, that's what they began to teach. Eventually, the British reign and the Catholic Church clashed because of these beliefs. Because while Catholicism, even though they knew the truth and was sitting on top of the truth, publicly they were not proclaiming the truth. They were still teaching that the people of the land are people of the Caucasus. And while Britain was saying that, well, we are the people, the Catholic Church wouldn't just come out and say, well, no, because how can you be the people? Because the people are of a dark hue. They don't look like you. Even though they knew that, they wouldn't come out and say it. You see, they would endure whatever they have to endure publicly, but they would never come out and state that. So King James comes along and he wants to be exalted. And so what he decided to do was he said, you know what, I'm going to give the scriptures to everybody. I'm going to do away with the Roman law that says that it's illegal for a common man to have a copy of the scriptures. And so I'm going to sanction the translation of the scriptures. And he did. And in sanctioning the translation of the scriptures, he decided to name the translation after himself and after a pagan deity, Biblos. So when we use the word Bible, we are actually esteeming a pagan deity because it's the name of a pagan deity. So the translation, the King James Bible, is named after a man and after a pagan deity. So that's how the translation come to be in the hands of regular people. But once they made that change, then the rules become, you must not. Now, this is a rule, family. And even in American history, people were put to death here in America because if they ever claimed to have an understanding of the scriptures without what a pastor told them it says. Right here in America, once Europe came over and discovered something that was already inhabited. The law was made, and you can research this and you'll find it. It was law in America that no one can interpret the scriptures on their own accord. No one, and people were put to death for attempting to do that. A few people came along who were crazy enough, and when I say crazy, I mean crazy because their doctrines were crazy. But they were crazy enough in every way to go against that law, and things began to change. One of them was a woman. I don't remember her name. But she would go about, basically she saw herself as a prophet, and she would be interpreting the scriptures. She never went to any cemetery. And she would go about preaching and interpreting scriptures and so on. She then eventually took her to court, and she lost the court case. And I don't remember what was the end of her, but she was instrumental in a change where regular people began to look at the scriptures and say, well, it says this to me, and it says that to me. And that is where personal interpretations, you see, that idea of personal relationship, that's where all of that began to come in. So today, when you speak to a Christian about truths in the scriptures that they don't agree with, the first thing they'll say to you is, well, I have a personal relationship with God, and this is what he told me that this is saying. Well, the scriptures lets us know that no scripture is of any private interpretation, but set apart men of Yahuwah were moved by him and wrote as they were inspired, as they were instructed. So the idea of personal relationship is not found in the scriptures, because what the Christian used the word personal, the phrase personal relationship to mean is to say that each of us, in reading the scriptures, it will say something different to you, and that's okay. That's not what Yahuwah says. He says there is only one truth, and then he tells us how to go about finding that one truth and getting on one accord with the truth. Okay? So when it speaks of personal relationship, they are basically saying that everybody can have their own understanding. That's why you have over 30,000 different denominations in Christianity. And somehow all of them are going to spend eternity in heaven. Okay? And you have people of Yahusha that come out of the church and still have the same idea. It is false. It is a lie. And we realize that the enemy is setting us up. You see. Yes. So, so King James came and he gave the scriptures to everybody. Well, when King James translated the scriptures, King James was a lawless man. King James wasn't concerned with keeping the law. And King James didn't translate the scriptures. Let me say that also. Because people are under the perception that King James translated the scriptures. He didn't. Him being the king and him sanctioning the translation, he made a decree that the translation should carry his name and the name of an idol. He made that decree, and the decree was carried out. But King James did not translate the scriptures. What King James did was got about 70 people to translate the scriptures. And the 70 men, a whole lot of them had background in witchcraft. And the stuff you see associated with illuminary beliefs. And all of that got rolled over into the translation of the text also. So we must keep in mind, I went through all of that to say that we must keep in mind the history of who gave us the translation, even as we read the renewed covenant. Because while we have access to with the Torah and the prophets, we have access to the Abri text. With the renewed covenant, we don't. Not that the text don't exist, but Rome is still sitting on it. We don't have access to it. Okay? But they have told us that it exists. Their popes have told us that those Hebrew writings exist. We just do not have access to it. So, what we have to do to help us to understand the renewed covenant is that we have to study line upon line, precept upon precept, here a little, there a little, take it back to the foundation, and see if what has been stated makes sense. And then Yahuwah, in our own carnalness, we can't see this. We won't see the deception in our own carnalness. But as Yahuwah begins to open our eyes, he makes it clear. So that's why when you go to, for example, the book of Yahuchanan, chapter 1 and verse 17, as we looked at last week, where he says that the law was given to Masha, but they say grace and truth came through, and they put the pagan name in there, Jesus Christ, not the name of the Mashiach, but the name, another title for a pagan deity. But, why is the but there? The but is not even in the Greek text. But why is the but there? For negative contrast. The law was bad, but here comes something better. Grace. Grace is not even a word from the scriptures. Grace is a Christian word with pagan roots. The word is favor. Yahuwah shows favor to his people. What is the word favor associated with? Yes, favorite. Favorite. When you hear the word favor, think there's another word that comes with that word. Favorite. Now, this gets me in a lot of trouble. But the fact is this, that among all the nations of the earth, Yahuwah does have a favorite. He has a nation that he has favorited, a nation that he has favored on account of one man's obedience. As long as that nation are the Jews, they have no trouble admitting to that. When you say that nation is not the Jews, some people have big problems with that. But yes, Yahuwah does have favorites, or he has a favorite. And his favorite is Yasharal, and he says that again over and over in the scriptures. He says it. But people, I'm telling you, many people have a problem with that. And it's a fact. I didn't make it up. It's in the scriptures. You see? Now, what boggles my mind is how he could continue to call a people who have been so wicked, so rebellious, so ungrateful, and so unthankful, how he could continue to call them his favorite. To the point that he has made a promise that I will never totally turn my back against them. Now that the identity of the people is known and cannot be denied, yeah, absolutely, Akut, because he is a father. Love. Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, but now that the identity of the people cannot be denied, when I tell you it can't be denied, it cannot be denied. So, with the moment you say to somebody that denies it, okay, let's go to the scriptures. And you go to the first text, they don't even want to talk about it. They want to get back out of the scriptures as quick as possible, and they want to start accusing you. But now that it cannot be denied, when you speak those facts about favored and favorite, people really have issues with that. And family, we cannot. And you know what's unfortunate? I'm sorry, family, but every time I come here, because you see, if I don't say this, I don't know how many. Okay, let me say this. Let me ask this question. I want to find out from the room. Do you think it's necessary, as we turn to the scriptures and these things come up, do you think it's necessary for me to go into them or to just not touch it and go past it? Because there's no need for us to hear it, because we all know and understand this, right? But there's no need to discuss this matter. I want to find out. Okay? Well, go into it. Very necessary. Okay? Teach. Okay? You see, proceed. Okay. I want to make sure that I'm not laboring something that I don't need to tend to, okay? But I believe it's very necessary. Because, you see, here's the problem, family. We have been lied to for a very long time. And when you are born into something, you have no idea that this is not the way it's always been. So the fact that you are born into it automatically, and when you're born into it and there's a system designed to make sure that the lie continues, then automatically you're going to think that this is the way it is and this is the way it's always been. But when the truth is revealed and when the truth is known, if nobody speaks about it, do you think that automatically you're just going to say, oh, it's not always been this way? No. Yahuwah does raise up people to awaken us to the truth. Okay? Yahuwah does raise up people to awaken us to the truth. I want to share another video, and especially when it comes to the scene of the Matrix, I want to share a video with you, family. Another one. Watch it later. I want to share another video that I was looking at this morning and sharing it with the kids in our study this morning. Our study was on programming. Okay? The word program and programming has to do with television. Okay? I want to share another video with you for you to watch later on. Let me just pull that video up very quickly. Now, every part of this video is important, but especially when you get to the movie The Matrix, I want you to hear the conversation. I want you to listen to the dialogue. I want you to hear what he has to say about when a people have inherited lies, how many of them do not want to unplug, and they will even fight and kill to protect the lie. I want you to hear this from this movie and some other things in the video. I want to share this link with you. So give me a second. I want to share this, and I encourage you when you have time later on or sometime, encourage you to go back and look at it. Let me see. So when we have inherited lies, when you're born into it, you automatically think that's the way it's always been. And hadn't it been for the goodness of Yahuwah, he wouldn't put it in somebody to make you want to. No, it's a series of different videos, Akut. It's just taking clips from different videos, pointing out things in different videos. But the point that I'm making comes out especially in the clip on the Matrix, where the guy is talking. But it's not just about the Matrix. It's a lot of different clips in there.